Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Mavidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, may the Divine Being look over us lovingly as Mother and Father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto us, peace and beneficence be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. Well, again, good evening. Namaste, everyone. Welcome to our Wednesday evening reading and discussion of Swami Ranganathananda's amazing little book, 83 pages long, the result of a lecture that he gave in Perth, Australia in 1978 to a group of Shivananda Ashrama devotees. The book's title is Divine Grace, and we are at section 23, the struggle to be divine grace worthy, which is an odd idea since this is not a meritocracy. But the Swami is making a case, as Swayam will read to us. Our gracious reader is Swayam Prabha Tyagi, and she will very kindly read for us what is written in section 23.
Sure. Jai Ma.
Jai Ma.
Section 23. The struggle to become grace-worthy. All these steps outlined by Silvano Arrietty to foster creativity already form integral parts of meditation and other sadhanas or spiritual practices of the dynamic spirituality of the science of religion, the science of spiritual growth of man, as contrasted with the static and formal piety of all ethical religions. In life generally, and in spiritual life particularly, Sri Ramakrishna refers to the need on the part of the seeker to strive to obtain the grace not only of God, but also of one's own mind. To emphasize this, and it needs much emphasis, he used to recite a familiar saying of the Bengal Vaishnava tradition. The grace of the three, namely Guru, Krishna, God, and fellow devotees, have I amply received, but for not obtaining the grace of one's own mind, my life has gone to dogs. So when you build up your strength of individuality and self-reliance and character strength from your young days, you are already catching that wind of grace, and you are getting steadily stronger and purer to appreciate it and benefit from it. And you become strongest when you surrender all your strength to that great breeze of grace that blows all the time. For He, capital H, for He alone is. we are only just a spark of that divine fire. We have not to run after, to pine after divine grace. We have only to become grace worthy. And that grace worthiness is what one gets by achieving manliness through a life of self reliance, hard work, and struggle to develop character strength. This takes us.
Hang on right there, dear. What you can see what he's done is he's summarized the entire 22 earlier sections in what he just said. That to be divine grace worthy is not something that you run after. You simply build yourself up. He characterizes it as manliness. He was speaking to men, but of course he means manliness and womanliness. He means to be a fully developed human being. Then the grace finds you. So it is not that you are running after grace. You are becoming grace-worthy by manifesting what is already within. That's what he's saying. So it's not a meritocracy. It is that you are struggling to be grace-worthy simply by struggling to be fully human, to manifest, and then, as he says, to surrender all that, which of course is the message of all the great spiritual traditions. Self-surrender is the message of Christ. It is the message of Chaitanya. It is the message of Krishna. And of course, it is the message of Sri Ramakrishna, renunciation and self-surrender. And it is also the message of Allah. Die before you die, Allah said. This is what is meant by self-surrender. You allow that aspect, that lower aspect of yourself, to go dormant, to die in that sense. So before we move on, are there any comments from anyone, from your own wisdom or experience, or any questions at all about what it is the Swami has said? Because I said he has summed up so that he can now move on to the final aspects of this. So anything at all from anyone about what the Swami has said, or any of the quotes he has offered us?
I think it is gem of a message that we don't have to run after divine grace, but rather focus inward to get that character building and strength, self-reliance. I think
First we focus outwards, Swayam.
Right.
First we focus outward, as you did in your career,
Right.
as everyone who is here has. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here this evening.
Right.
You have succeeded, in whatever way you have succeeded, that enables you to now see beyond that.
Mm.
As Swami Vivekananda put it, first bread, then football, then the Gita. And by that he meant first master keeping the wolf from the door, then master the game of life so that the game doesn't beat you, that you are equal to the game of life, and manifest the human presence of yourself. Such great gifts we have been given, and of course he points specifically to your creativity. This is one of the neglected aspects for most of us. because we've become left brain focused, which is linear. It is an aspect of creativity. It is what gives creativity form. But we are missing that spark of creativity that comes from the right brain being, the right brain personality, as Jill Bolte Taylor puts it. So anything else, Swami? I interrupted you, but I didn't want to go on beyond. So anything else, dear?
Guess I used that word inwards inappropriately. What I meant was, instead of grasping for that divine grace, focus on the individual self to become, the self.
And that is first an outward journey. And then when that is sufficiently achieved, then it turns into an inward journey, which is what Swamiji meant when he said, then the Gita.
Right. The question I have is, he says, when you build up your strength of individuality and self-reliance and character strength from your young days, obviously there are some who don't have the circumstances or to do that from a young age. So does grace bring them to someone who is going to help, or?
This is a very interesting question. Our karma may stand in our way. And this is why I so often look to and recommend the story, the Christmas story of Scrooge. Scrooge, in his life, two things were true. First, he had become a prisoner of fear and doubt. And secondly, he had made a friend that saw beyond the outward fear and doubt and unpleasant aspects of the character of Ebenezer Scrooge in the form of Jacob Marley. So Jacob Marley, here Scrooge is old, probably in his 60s. I don't remember exactly. But in any event, he has lived an eventful life, as you see if you follow the story. But it has been a life that since his young manhood days was one that of increasing fear and doubt. But this friend, Jacob Marley, is given the boon of offering Scrooge deliverance. And the story is then of his learning in just one night from three spirits about what he has become and what is possible for him if he awakens. And he does awaken, and he says, I'm not the man I was, I'm not the man I was, I'm not the man I was. And he says to his clerk, I have not taken leave of my senses, Bob. I have come to them, which is, of course, what the Swami has been recommending to us all along, that we come to our senses and clarify them and purify them, and thereby manifest our humanity. At the end of that story of Scrooge, he manifests his glorious, shining humanity and is transformed. So, yes, it can come later in life to those whose circumstances in their younger days were not auspicious.
Thank you.
Anything else from anyone? This is exactly what we should do. We should study this text and find out for ourselves what it means. So if there are any other comments and questions, or anything from your own wisdom or experience that illumines this, please share it with us.
I guess looking back to the Scrooge story,
Mhm.
he was hardworking and he was, I guess, self-reliant. But I guess what he lacked was the ability to have compassion towards others.
Yes, he was totally devoid of it because he was behind this wall of doubt and fear.
And what created doubt and fear? Was it the times he was living in, or?
Well, that was part of it, but it was he his father, just from his very early days, his father had taken the attitude that he was responsible for his mother's death. His father loved his mother very much. She died in childbirth, giving birth to Scrooge, and so he did not, until Scrooge was quite along in years, in his teenage years, he did not show him any love. He sent him away.
Mm.
And so he got off to this inauspicious start. And then he was in a time that the time that Charles Dickens was living in and writing about was the time of the Industrial Revolution. And it was the machines were taking over from human beings. They were doing the work that human beings used to do. And that continues today. It's now old news, but it was very new in those days. And Scrooge felt overwhelmed by this and needed to overmaster it. Felt that he had to become, and so if you read the story, you see he had done that. As you say, he was diligent, hardworking, very much so, and but entirely self-centered, and was afraid to spend a halfpenny. If you remember the scene in the restaurant where he goes for dinner after work one day, and he says, "Waiter, more bread." And the waiter says, "Halfpenny more, halfpenny, halfpenny more." And Scrooge says, "No more bread." He wouldn't part with a halfpenny more to get what he wanted. But there was a goodness, and it was simply covered up by the darkness of fear and doubt. This is a great story. It's a great story, and very much relevant to all of us who have doubts and fears. Of course we do. It is generated by the gunas and Maya. So this is why the Swami has told us in the 22 chapters, 22 sections before in this book, he has told us about the necessity to manifest your strength and your character and everything that is good about you as a human being, and be fearless. That is not that it isn't that you don't experience fear. You simply don't let it daunt you. You don't let it stop you. Thank you, Swami. These are very productive questions. Anything else from anyone?
Hi, Brother Shankara.
Yes, dear.
I'm just present to my own fears that today I had to ask favor, and I reached out. I had like 20 people I could reach out for. And out of those 5 people, I made myself excuse, oh, they are busy, they are this. But I know it was my fear to reach out to them, and I did not. And it's funny how the logic plays when I create a logic so that I don't have to deal with my fear.
Yes. Well, dear, each of us is faced with it,
Mhm.
if not daily, certainly frequently,
Yeah.
of what it is that we know is an auspicious thing to do, and yet something holds us back, some fear.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things that is so productive about meditation. We see what it is that we are afraid of. And then when we know it, and we're no longer dealing with the unknown, then it's easier to face it. These are what's called in the tradition of Sanatana Dharma, the knots of the heart, K-N-O-T-S, knots of the heart. And they are deep. Who knows how old they are? We cannot know our karma in any comprehensive sense, but we can see the effect in us. And so when we practice meditation, concentration and meditation, we see these things because they're what interrupts our stream of concentration. As we're concentrating on whatever it is that is the heart of our spiritual practice within the Ramakrishna Vivekananda tradition, it typically is a mantra. What is it that interrupts you and carries you away so that you forget to say the mantra? And then after a time you find, oh, I'm not saying the mantra. I've gone off on this train of thought. Well, the witness will say, well, what was that train of thought? What is the attraction, the aversion, the fear, the doubt? What is the knot of the heart that has interposed itself between me and what I am doing? And so this is why it requires, as Haima has pointed out to us so many times, so wonderfully, it takes years and years of practice, but it can be done. This is exactly, of course, what Krishna tells us in the Gita, and Sri Ramakrishna also in his gospel. Just keep at it. And as Sri Ramakrishna says over and over, in this age, in this end of the Kali Yuga, the most auspicious form of spiritual practice, which is the one taught by the Ramakrishna Order Swamis, is the bhakti path, the devotional path. And Sri Ramakrishna specifically says, as was outlined by Narada. Narada is one of those who wrote a workbook on bhakti, like the Patanjali's Yoga Sutras are a workbook for Raja Yoga. Narada's Bhakti Sutras are a workbook for devotion. And when you read that book, you see that bhakti is not a sentimental or easy path. It's not simply bowing down and being pious. No. It's a far more demanding path. And Sri Ramakrishna simplifies it in his own gospel by going right to the heart of the matter. Because, like in all workbooks, there are secondary details. But bhakti, Somesh, is the path. Some sort of devotional path that takes you to your heart. And there you find the knots of the heart that represent the darkness as it is appearing to you, because Maya is darkness and light. Thank you so much, very much for bringing that up.
Brother Shankara,
Yes, dear.
your statement that don't be daunted or try not to be daunted by fears brings to my mind something I heard some time back that I'm paraphrasing. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to keep carry on despite the fears.
Precisely.
And I also remember what you had said, what Mark Twain said, terrible things have happened in my life, most of which have never
Yeah, well,
happened.
he punned on the word occurred. He said, thousands of terrible things have occurred to me in my life, most of which never happened.
Happen. So, and it's the same for speaking for myself, prisoners of circumstances. Something happens and then we can't get rid of it. Or nowadays, with all this media, something happens somewhere and then we kind of think, oh, bring it on, like overly cautious. Oh, I shouldn't have. What if it happens to me, kind of thing. So, how did, like, obviously Mark Twain realized that, and I'm assuming he overcame. Um,
And some terrible things did happen to him in his life. His beloved wife and all three of his very deeply beloved daughters died of illnesses of various kinds. The house he had built for their family, beautiful, beautiful house. Out of his earnings as a writer, he built this house in Hartford, Connecticut. And it burnt to the ground with everything in it. All of his papers, all of his everything. And he ended up in terrible debt because of bad investments. He was an incautious and adventuresome investor. And he made bad investments and ended up badly in debt and had to go on a very arduous series of lecture tours to earn the money quickly enough to pay those debts off so he wouldn't have to go bankrupt. He was fortunate because someone who was a great admirer of his, who was very wealthy, loaned him the money to pay off the debts. When that man saw that Twain was willing to do the work to pay them off himself, he said, well, here, let me pay them off for you, and then you just owe me the money, so you won't be in any danger of going back in bankrupt. All that happened to Mark Twain. But did he push through fear and doubt? Oh, if you study his life and the life of Walt Whitman, oh my God, the things that he endured and pushed through the fear. To be a battlefield nurse in the Civil War, where you never knew where the front of the war was suddenly going to change, and you might be behind enemy lines and be captured. It nearly happened to him more than once. So these great souls, and of course, every one of us in our own way, as I say, we would not be sitting here tonight if we had not pushed through the challenges, if we had not pushed through the challenges that tried to stop us. I mean, every one of you could tell a story, as Studs Terkel, the great teller of people's stories, said, everyone has such a wonderful and compelling story. So each one of us has quite a remarkable story. And that's what brought us to where we are this evening. And as the Swamis say to us, so be grateful for everything that happened to you, because you are now a spiritual aspirant. And it was all because of all of those things that happened to you. And your growth will continue because you continue to face different kinds of challenges, interior challenges, and life's challenges as well. But, and that's what the Swami says. Push through to where you manifest. Swami Ranganathananda says, push through and manifest all of that because what you're manifesting, as he said, and it's just this in this summary, whether you know it or not, you're manifesting your divinity. Because that's all that exists. Thou is all that exists. God alone is the doer. God alone is real, Sri Ramakrishna says over and over. We find out what that means by manifesting it within ourselves. And first, it's not apparent to us at all. We're working to master the game of life. Thank you as always, Swami. Anything else from anyone? Any comment from your own wisdom? Any concern that all of this raises, or any question? Okay, dear. Looks like we've got that pretty well clear for everyone. So please read on.
Sure. I'll just go one sentence, repeat what we've already read. We have only to become graceworthy, and that graceworthiness is what one gets by achieving manliness through a life of self-reliance, hard work, and struggle to develop character strength. This takes us closer and closer to that final spiritual revolution in total self-surrender, prapatti or sharanagati.
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 If you remember, that is the refrain in the evening hymn, Om Ring Ritam. Tasmat Tvameva Sharanam. I take refuge. Okay.
When the mind is dominated by nature's powers of tamas and rajas, sharanagati or self-surrender, if practiced, will not be genuine. It is best then to practice purushakara or self-reliance, accompanied by a general feeling of devotion and dedication to God. But when the mind rises to the level of sattva or even sattva dominated rajas, it gets the capacity for self surrender and the appreciation of divine grace. It is at this level that bhakti shines at its purest and best, and human life reaches the level of spontaneity, naturalness, and effortlessness. The Srimad Bhagavatam gives a beautiful picture of such a life. In its exposition of the nature of a Bhagavatottama, the best among the devotees, by the Nava Yogindras. He is the best among the devotees of Hari, God, who sees the blessed Lord as the capital self in all beings, and all beings in the blessed Lord as their capital self.
Yeah, please read that again. And I use the word, I can't talk now, Janice. I'm in class. I'll call you back.
Okay, bye.
That was my sister. This is when I said thou. This is the exact equivalent word to the word that the Swami is using as self. Thou alone exists. Self alone exists. So please read that again, dear. And read its introduction, where it comes from.
Okay. The Srimad Bhagavatam gives a beautiful picture of such a life in its exposition of the nature of a Bhagavat Uttama, the best among devotees, by the Nava Yogindras. He is the best among the devotees of Hari, God, who sees the blessed Lord as the capital self in all beings, and all beings in the Blessed Lord as their capital self. He is a middling type of devotee who practices love towards God, friendship towards his devotees, compassion towards childish or ignorant people, and indifference towards enemies. He is an ordinary type of devotee who seeks to worship God with faith only in an image or idol, but not in his devotees or others. He is the best among the devotees of God, who sees this universe as the Maya of Vishnu, the all pervading Lord, even while experiencing its objects through his sense organs.
Please read that last again. That addition to the definition of the best devotee.
He is the best among the devotees of God who sees this universe as the Maya of Vishnu, the all pervading Lord, even while experiencing its objects through his sense organs.
Which is the way we live. We do. We experience this universe as objects, name and form, of sense organs. Okay, please go on.
He is the preeminent devotee who, through his constant remembrance of Hari, does not get deluded by the characteristics of the world, such as birth, death, hunger, thirst, fear, cravings, and hardships affecting the body, sense organs, vital energies, mind, and intellect. He verily is the best among the devotees who, ever residing in only in Vasudeva Hari, does not experience the emergence of even the seeds of sense cravings and craving satisfying actions in his mind.
Now, does this mean that this is a demand that each of us must meet and that we are failing to meet and there's something wrong? This best among devotees? No, it is not. It is simply an observation of the truth. It is what we are to aspire to, but not feel bad about ourselves because we have not realized. We mustn't say, oh, this is the best and I'm not that, so there's something wrong with me. No, emphatically not. Continue to work, acknowledging that all of those things that were just mentioned are those things that challenge us, that daunt us, that continue to distract us. And so we say, I'm not going to let that be the limit of my ambition. There's a wonderful story about an Englishman and a Frenchman. And the Frenchman says to the Englishman, tell me about yourself. And the Englishman says, I was born an Englishman, I have lived an Englishman, and I shall die as an Englishman. And the Frenchman says, oh, monsieur, is that the limit of your ambition? Oh, monsieur, is that the limit of your ambition? So we must not have any limit to our ambition. Our ambition is to be fully divine, to manifest the divinity within, as Swami Vivekananda said. The goal of human life is to manifest the divinity already within. Mhm. And then he gives us the instructions as to how. But the Swami is giving us a different look at things here through quoting this wonderful passage from the Srimad Bhagavatam about the nature of the best, the middling, and the ordinary devotee. Now, all of them are prized. It is to be prized to be any kind of devotee at all. Is that clear to everyone? Please do say something if it's not clear to you. If there's something that remains uh, that you're feeling bad about yourself in any way.
Um,
Go ahead, Sam.
I was going to say the Swami himself kind of alludes to that in the beginning when he says that it is, where was that? When you're in the tamasic and sattvic, even if you practice self-surrender, it's not going to be genuine. So it's better to practice self-reliance and accompanied by, I like the way he puts it, general feeling of devotion and dedication to God.
Yes, which is exactly what Patanjali says in the Niyamas. Exactly those things. Continue to practice Purushakara, self-effort, self-study, study of the scriptures, inner and outer purity, all of the Niyamas. But then, to the extent that you're able to, offer everything to the divine. And in the beginning, there's this wonderful phrase in Alcoholics Anonymous. They say, I know you can't be this full-on surrender to God. You know, they have a saying, let go, let God. I know you can't do that. No, the sponsor will say to the sponsee, but fake it till you make it.
And
Act as if
I
it were
think
true. Act as if it were true.
I was going to say that when I look back on my own, life, a lot of things that I craved for no longer um, captured my, that much of my attention. And one way of explaining, I used to think, oh, because I got bored of it, but it's really not, because I think it's the evolution of mm, getting over the cravings, not necessarily the boredom.
No, no, brava, brava, dear. Brava, brava. Yes, indeed. We leave these things behind. As Swami Prabhupada said, you have seen the shining light in the east. It has drawn your attention. You have seen the shining light of spiritual fulfillment in the east. You now live in the west. Move toward that light in the east. Simply begin to do the things necessary to move toward that light, to make it more of a reality, to get closer to it. You spontaneously leave behind the things of the West. So it's not a question of boredom. You're right. It's not a question of boredom. If you think it's a question of boredom, just listen to Tom Carr on Sundays when he talks about how, these things spring up for him as much as he's practiced meditation. Though all those old yearnings and cravings spring right back up for him. It's because he's so aware through his meditation practice that they're happening. Thank you, Swayam. Somesh, you were going to say something.
I was just going to add one thing that so even if somebody is like they say that you can be ordinary devotee or you can be best, or and even if somebody is not ordinary devotee, then also there's nothing wrong with that. It's like you said,
Absolutely.
it's all Maya, like Maya of Vishnu. That is what it is, and
Precisely.
yes,
Precisely.
and
You're so right. There's nothing wrong with them.
Mm.
Am I ignorant? Yes. Otherwise, I'd be realized, fully realized.
Yeah.
The character of my ignorance is different than the person who is no longer, who doesn't yet, has not yet become a devotee. But they may be pursuing a very fulfilling life, manifesting their self-reliance and their strength.
Exactly.
The Swami says in the very beginning, when you first start to do this, when you're in your brahmacharya and first grihastha householder phase, these things are not a reality for you. They're just not a reality. What is reality for you is what you're reaching toward. Mastering the game of life, keeping the wolf from the door.
Mhm.
But then something happens, as the Swami says. When you've achieved that, the Lord himself, herself, will tap you on the shoulder and say, spend a little time with me here. I have something even more marvelous to show you. And that is an absolute reality, as each one of us knows. It has become a reality in our lives. Something happened.
Oh.
And we woke up to the, and if you want to know what I'm talking about there, just listen to Fred Hughes sometimes on a Saturday morning when he'll talk about how, he was in retirement. He'd had a very successful career and had basically lived as an agnostic. And then something happened after he retired. Something happened. And he said, what is this? What is this? What is this? And so he found his way to Ramakrishna Vivekananda Vedanta through his friend Jim Pierce. They'd been friends since high school. They were bandmates together in high school.
Yeah.
So, our congregation contains all of these kinds of people.
Mm.
And it is our karma. It is, as you said, Somesh, it is the Maya of Vishnu. And so there's nothing wrong with those people who are not devotees. We have compassion toward them,
Mhm.
love for them. May their awakening experience come soon. And Sri Ramakrishna says it will happen at exactly the right time. Exactly the right time.
Yep.
Anything else from anyone?
Yeah, Brother Shankara, earlier in the book, we had read about that saint. I cannot remember his name, who was sitting in the church and, he opened the book and got the message, and his mother used to pray for him.
Augustine, St. Augustine.
So, I mean, he also was, I guess, considering himself not a great devotee, right? He was.
Oh, he was leading quite a dissolute life. His prayer was, give me piety, give me purity, Lord, make me pure, but not yet. He says that in his confessions, and that was the thing that was so wonderful about him is he was sincere, he was authentic. He didn't BS himself or anybody else. This is who I am. As Swami Vivekananda said, if you're going to sin, he was speaking to a group of men. He said, if you're going to sin, sin like a man. If you're going to miss the mark, don't hold back. And who was a great example of this? Sri Ramakrishna's great devotee, Girish Ghosh. If you want to read an absolutely astounding book, read Swami Chaitanananda's book. It's the thickest book he ever wrote. Chaitanananda. He's written many books. The thickest book he wrote was the story of Girish Ghosh.
Is that the title? Story of Girish?
No, I don't remember the title here, but the name Girish Ghosh is
Okay.
in the title. Is in the title.
Okay.
You had mentioned fake it till you make it, and I think we sometimes feel like hypocrites while we're faking it, and we feel self-doubt. But I realized I feel the Swami also felt self-doubt at times, because even in the Om Prima Tam, which you had mentioned earlier tonight, he said, "Though I utter these words with my lips, they find no echo in my heart." So I even
Yes.
think he felt that same self-doubt, like, "Hey man, I'm just faking it."
Well,
So, and
absolutely. Absolutely. He doubted Sri Ramakrishna. When he came to Sri Ramakrishna overwhelmed him with his love. But you're absolutely right, Brahmadas.
right,
He told the master that he was crazy, that he was hallucinating. He said, "The water pot is consciousness itself? You must be joking. That's a crazy thought." But the master, of course, had seen it, the self in everything.
and when we fake it till we make it, who's to say when we've stopped faking it and when that's a part of our core personality?
Exactly, dear. There is no line of demarcation. You only realize it afterwards. Oh, I'm no longer faking it. So
Um,
well said, Ramadas. So well said. Exactly it.
what Brahmadas said, a little different way of looking at it is, we know that we are faking it because deep inside we know what the truth is, but we just haven't uncovered. So, we, otherwise we wouldn't know that we are faking it if we didn't know a deeper truth.
Well,
Right.
but this is, we know of the existence of the deeper truth, but it isn't yet a reality for us. If you read the definition of karma yoga that is used from here, you will see that the goal is to see the divine presence in every human being. But before that, you act as if that divine presence exists in every being that you serve or interact with. This is karma yoga as taught by Sri Krishna. Act as if the divine being is present in the people you work with, in the person that checks you out at the supermarket. Just deal with them as if that is the truth. And eventually, working and abiding in that spirit, you are able to release attachment to your actions and their fruits and experience the contentment and freedom that is promised by karma yoga, as taught by Swami Vivekananda.
Shankara, I have another view about it, that, the fake it, you make it. If we say we are faking it, that means we think we are certain way and we are faking not to be. But, this thought that I am certain way is also not true. It's just my own creation. And if I think, the reality is, am I, like when I meet someone, am I consciously being seeing them as divine, or I'm not seeing them as divine, or I'm unconsciously seeing them as divine? I think that's what is happening at the moment. That's about it. But whether I'm certain way or not, and that's how I am or I'm not. That's all my creation. There is that's all, like in the Maya. I see that it's all
As,
created
as,
by me.
as is so often the case, Somesh, you go right to the heart of the matter. Yes, that's everything you said is absolutely true. And so we just do with it. This creation of our mind, our universe, as Swami Vivekananda puts it, our universe. There's a universe we share, and then there's the unique universe that each one of us projects.
Good.
Brother Shankara?
Wait a minute. Did Brahmadas have something
Brahmadas.
else he wanted to say?
No, I had nothing to say. Go ahead.
Okay. I thought I saw your light come on. Sorry, Swayam.
No, I was going to say that today, when I was rocking my granddaughter to sleep, giving such a good, feeling. But I also tried to direct it, offer it to God. Like, in addition to knowing that I'm rocking my granddaughter, I was trying to think, oh, I'm rocking baby Krishna, I'm rocking baby Ramakrishna. Because I'd read the story about Ramakrishna's birth, where as a baby he crawled into towards like a fire or something, and but
Yes.
nothing so is that, I mean, obviously I had to imagine and
Oh,
all.
no, no, no. Dear heart, trust it. This is exactly what's pointed to in the Devi Mahatmyam when it says all scriptures and mythologies are your aspects, O Devi. So are all women in the world. So are all women in the world endowed with various attributes. You were manifesting that motherhood of God. You were feeling it within your being when those thoughts arose in you. What brought those thoughts to your mind? What brought that feeling to your heart? This is part of the universe that you are manifesting because you are the Divine Mother. This is why women are so. This is why Sri Ramakrishna says, worship every woman as the Divine Mother, as your mother. Every woman, because this is the truth. It isn't like he was recommending this because he'd read it in a book. No, he knew it. He knew it. And so, brava again, wonderful. The fact that you are having that experience and having those thoughts and feelings arise in you. It is a reality. That is the divine being in the form of your granddaughter. So yes, indeed. Perfect. And this is the journey toward becoming this best devotee that he talks about, is manifesting these things rather than the lesser things. And it's not a matter of bad and wrong at any point in the journey. You're just being authentically who you are. And it slowly and slowly evolves. As Swami Sridharananda said, we start with the feeling, and very legitimately so, I am. Then something awakens in us, something happens, and we understand that, oh, there's something beyond me. There's something, this is not my creation, this is not my doing. And so he characterizes this, Swami Sridharananda says, now you feel I am and thou art. Later, as you manifest more and more of the divinity that is within you, you see that small self that says I am, you have the feeling, thou art, therefore I am. Thou art the infinite, omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent being. Thou art, therefore I am, this creation of Maya. And ultimately, you see that only thou art, that even the Maya, that this imaginary self, which doesn't mean it's not real simply because it's imaginary. It's just a lesser or relative truth. That too is the divine being. So you go from I am to I am and thou art, to thou art, therefore I am, to simply thou art, which is what exactly was just described in this passage from the Srimad Bhagavatam as the experience, the empirical experience of the best devotee.
Brother Shankar, actually, this while you were sharing, the thought came to my mind that at any time I can create myself that even as a man, I'm the divine mother, and if I try to be divine mother, then I think I'm not, and I'm trying something. But if I create that I'm the one, then that's it.
Mirabai went to the chief temple, the number one temple in Vrindavan, and she wanted to go into the temple. The story goes, the gatekeeper said, no women allowed. She said, may I see the head priest? May I see the person in charge?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, oh, yes, since you are who you are, I'll go get him. And he came. And Mirabai said simply, are not all souls female before God? Is there any man here but Krishna? The story goes, and this is said to be a true story. The head priest took her by the hand and led her into the temple.
Oh.
So just exactly what you said, Somesh. What a beautiful insight. Yes. And so if you read the book, The Great Master by Swami Sardananda, toward the end of that book, he recommends this as a practice for men. Recommend thinking of yourself as the divine feminine. And he really explains in some detail why it is such a powerful practice and why it leads to the highest form of bhava, madhura bhava, the love of the divine within you as the divine feminine for the divine masculine. and you can see it over and over in the poems of these that are in Daniel Ladinsky's book, Love Poems from God. The men saying, let me love you as a woman loves. Let me nurse you at my breast. St. Francis of Assisi says, let me nurse you at my breast. So yes, Somesh, beautiful insight.
Yeah, and there's definitely something, about feminists that the way they love, and that's why they are mothers, because the fathers cannot love the way mother loves. So I always felt that way with my wife as well. The way she loves our son, I'm nowhere there, but yeah, I can create myself as like divine mother, and then there's no difference.
Exactly, Somesh.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. So we'll read this passage from the Srimad Bhagavatam to start again next week, because it is, this is the Swami closing his case, if you will, beginning his closing argument. He's just summarized at the beginning of 23. He summarized what had been said before. Now he's beginning to close, to use a legal term, he's beginning to make his closing arguments. And of course, he's using the highest. The Srimad Bhagavatam is, of course, the teachings of Sri Krishna in various forms. Any final thoughts from anyone before we sign off? All right, dears. Oh, dearly beloved, a flower at your feet for each one who comes to your open door. A flower at your feet for each one who stands by your open door and says, "Come to me, come to me," offering to break this world's chain that binds us down to ignorance, suffering, and death. A flower at your feet for each one who takes the path that you have struck through this your jungle world. Om, Amen. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace and beneficence be unto us and to every living being everywhere. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai, Durga Durga Durga. May we be safe. May we be healthy. May we be cheerful. May we have peace of mind. And may we be always in the loving and protective embrace. May we know ourselves to be always in the loving and protective embrace of the Divine Being as our Mother and Father. Om Hari Om Tat Sat. Dearly beloved, make it so. Any final thoughts from anyone? All right, dears. Well, the next time we'll gather, of course, is on Saturday. Saturday, today's the 14th, so Wednesday, 15th, 16th, 17th, yeah, that's right. We'll gather on Saturday for the class on how to know God. And then on the 18th in the chapel, we will gather face-to-face, for those of you who wish to gather face-to-face for a very sweet informal worship of the Divine Mother, of Holy Mother, on her birthday. The worship is modeled on her own worship of the Master. It's not tantric. It's very simple, very straightforward, and features simply adoration and feeding the Divine Being. The Mother always fed the Master. So we will feed the Master and Mother on the celebration of her birthday. But because of, and this was just pointed out to me yesterday by a doctor that I saw, nothing extraordinary, just a follow-up visit. But the doctor, who was a Kaiser doctor, pointed out to me that there is such a surge right now in not only COVID, but also this RSV, is that what it's called? This other viral infection, and also in the flu, very fierce forms of the flu. So we will not come in the monastery and share prasad. We'll take the prasad out into the foyer of the chapel, and we'll provide materials for you to take prasad away with you, take it home. So, any final thoughts from anyone? All right. Oh, by the way, the worship of the Divine Mother will be zoomed. So
Thank you, Brother Shankara. That'd be great.
yeah, that will be zoomed, and then our Christmas Eve worship on the 24th will also be zoomed, and again we'll arrange for people to take away the prasad when they go home.
Brother Shankara, what time is it in chapel on 18th?
11 a.m.
11 a.m. Okay, thank you.
11 a.m. And that's true of the Christmas Eve worship too. So
Okay.
it'll be at 11 a.m. All that's on the website. And for those of you who can't be here, of course, the links are on the website. Both of these will be, the one on Sunday, the 18th, will be, there's a link that says Sunday and special events. That will be for both the worship of the Divine Mother, the celebration of her birthday, and also the celebration of Christ's birthday on the 24th. It'll be under, it won't be the Saturday class link that you use that day. It'll be that Sunday and special events link. That'll be in the newsletter and on the website, and I'll mention it again as we get closer. Anything else from anyone? Thank you for asking, Somesh. All right, dears. A sweet and loving good night to all of you.
Good night, Brother.
Have a restorative and restful night, and wake up feeling safe and cheerful with peace of mind tomorrow.
Thank you.
These
Brother
holy
Shankara.
days, as my Celtic forebears would have said, may these blessings of the holy days be upon you. May the blessings of the holy days be upon you.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's the way those Celts talk. I love them. All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night, Brother Shankara.